Welcome to the Panthers post-game show. Kristen Balboni here with Panthers legends Thomas Davis, Johnathan, Stewart. Guys, we got a lot to get into after this loss to the Bills, and I think we just jump right into it, right? So let's start with this run defense. TD, this has been a strength of this team, but yet yesterday they give up 216 yards on the ground to James Cook. I want to know from both of you, what did you see?
You know, I think the thing that stood out the most yesterday to KBU about this run defense for me was the lack of adjustments. You know, the Buffalo Bills clearly came in with a game plan to, out leverage us and get us in a position to where they could take advantage of the edges. And we made no good adjustments to what they were doing with James Cook in this run offense. So I just feel like, this is a teaching moment. They got to go back to the film. They got to understand that teams are not going to run into your strength. So you have to have a game plan for when that happens. How do you make adjustments? The things you have to do, you have to blitz the corners off the edge. You have to take those edges away and force teams to have short edges when they're trying to get to the perimeter.
Yeah, just a missed opportunity. The Buffalo Bills are contenders, right? This is a chance for you to match, size yourself up against a contender. And we just dropped the ball. Obviously, we underestimated their run game. And I think that was something that was very noticeable on film as far as what TD just talked about, is making adjustments on the fly. You have to be able to do that when you are facing Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And we just let one slip.
You guys talked about seeing that on film. We're going to roll some of this film, these perimeter runs, and get you guys' take on it. But it was interesting. You both came in, we watched some of these plays together, and you said, oh, they took this game plan from another team. Patriots.
Yeah, New England Patriots.
You saw some of the stuff that showed up.
Yeah, copy and paste, right? They saw the strengths, which is Derek Brown and the big fellas in the inside, right? So how do we beat that? We attack the perimeter. We try to find ways to win on the edges. And that's what the Buffalo Bills game plan was out the gate. You have some really fantastic tight ends in Knox and Kincaid that can block, and they're willing to block. But obviously, too, they're effective in the pass game. But their game plan out the gate, coming off of a bye week, was let's get these guys back into the rhythm, and the best way to find rhythm is to run the ball. And they did that out the gate.
Yeah, it clearly showed that the Buffalo Bills had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And they came out, they looked like the fresher team. They looked like the team that was more committed to winning in the trenches. And whenever you make that kind of commitment, and I watched Sean McDermott press conference, and he talked about that after the fact. He talked about how the defensive line and the offensive line really set the tone for them. And, James Cook was able to have a career day rushing the football against this defense. And as you see time and time again, we're out leveraged. We have guys, I love the hustle by Trevin Wallace on this particular play, but that is a play that has to be made at the line of scrimmage. Guys have to do a better job of getting off blocks. Probably a holding call right there. If it doesn't get called, it doesn't get called. You got to play the game. And this defense just looked like they came in with the mindset that we have been great against the run, and that should do enough for us, and it just wasn't enough against this Buffalo offense.
Yeah, Buffalo's game plan was we're going to get to the outside, but we're also going to make one cut and get upfield. And when you are a defense that is running laterally, that's what a running back dreams about, right? If you can run lateral without any angles, I'm going to make you miss. I'm going to put you into space, and I'm going to make you miss. And that's exactly what James Cook and company was able to do. Now, it helps to have a guy like Josh Allen. You have to be aware of play action. You have to be aware of all these things because he's a constant threat when it comes to their offensive game plan. But you cannot allow for a running back like Cook to get to the second level. And he got to the second level, and he's getting paid to make the safeties miss. He's getting paid to make the linebackers miss in space. And so when you're allowing him to do his job and get to the more opportunities to do his job, you're going to get this type of outcome.
TD, you talked about the adjustments that you didn't see being made. As we look through some of these plays, what adjustments would you want to see?
I would like to see, the linebackers see that we're outflanked. by certain leverages, by certain formations that they came out in, and, just shift our defensive line over a little bit so that we are in a better position to take on the blockers that they had in front of us, but also linebackers in certain instances. You would have one linebacker that would make an adjustment, another linebacker that would stay put, and to me, that's when you get in a position where you don't have any kind of unison. That's when you are out of place. Right now, if you look at this particular play, they have a tight end wing set with a fullback offset to that side, and we have to make an adjustment right now because we have defensive linemen. Our bigger guys are offset to the left side, whereas this formation right here as a defender tells me that this ball is going to be ran to our right side. So if we're going to run the ball to the right side with all of these bodies that Buffalo has over here, and we have to understand and know that if we don't make any adjustments, then guys got to get downhill and meet pressure with pressure at the line of scrimmage. You can't allow them to get going because it's a lot harder to stop a car that's already moving than it is to stop one that's standing still.
Stu, we talked about the fact that they were able to watch this film from the Patriots. They were able to execute it. But the Panthers, as we said, this run defense has been the strength of this team. And so what I'm wondering is why hasn't every team done this and used this game plan? What have you seen from the other teams and this Bills team in particular?
Well, the Buffalo Bills, like I said earlier, they're contenders, right? They have the personnel. They have the guys to be able to execute this game plan the way they've been able to do it. But I look at this film and I see more of what the Carolina Panthers could have done, right? And it's all about every game plan requires a player to show up and have these three things: alignment, assignment, and execution. We didn't have any of those three things on any given moment when it came to the run game. And when TD's talking about, lining up properly, right? Adjusting. If you see a formation, you must align yourself properly so that way you can know your assignment. Because if you're out of alignment, you have a different assignment. And so get aligned properly, then have the assignment ready, and then execute it.
TD, I think the great thing, though, is that we know this is not that defense.
Right.
We know that this defense has shown week in, week again that they are a very, very good run defense. So what do these meetings look like, and how do you get right for the next game?
You go back, and a lot of times when you have situations when games go the way that they have, when we played for Coach Rivera, if we had a game like that, we would literally sometimes throw that film away. Like, it ain't no point in going back and trying to correct some of those things. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of corrections that can be made that happened yesterday, right? But when you look at it and you go in, you don't want your players to get in a position where they completely get down on themselves and they start to believe that they are what the film said they were yesterday, because that's not who this team is. They've shown week in and week out that they are a team that can go out and dominate up front and dominate from a run game standpoint. Weeks 1 through 7, 96 yards per game. Then you come out in week 8 and then you give up 245 yards rushing. That's not this football team. That's not this defense in particular. But when you look at the fact that we were giving up 7 yards a carry yesterday, that is unheard of for this defense. But then you factor in what really speaks to me is the number of yards ran over 10 yards, or rushes over 10 yards. They had 7 carries over 10 yards yesterday, and in the previous 7 weeks, Stu, they only gave up 13. So that to me says that guys yesterday did not fit properly. The defense was not fit properly. Guys weren't in position to execute and make plays like they had over the course of the first part of the season. And when you do that, that's the kind of outcome that you're going to get. You're going to give up big yardage, and it's going to be a great teaching moment. And hopefully, listening to Derek Brown's speech and what he talked about in his press conference, I think that this is going to be a great time for the leadership to show up for this football team, and we'll get to find out a lot about how this group responds to this.
Well, I learned so much about this run defense and what those issues were, and specifically, like we said, how much they are not the DNA of this Panthers team, But of course, it wasn't all about the defense. There were some big offensive miscues early. Stu, Andy Dalton coming in for Bryce Young with that ankle. And early, there was 1 interception, 2 fumbles lost, and a sack before the half. And that's a tough thing to come back from as an offense. Yeah,
it's a tough blow, right? You want to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and I think we started off the game doing that. Yep. We had an opportunity there where Rico Dowdle came in and he gave us a spark, right? Got down the field and you're in the red zone, and what you want to do is come away with points whenever you're in that situation. And when you do have a turnover, it's a huge blow. Right, it's a setback, not just for the offense, but for the defense as well, because the defense is sitting on the sideline thinking to themselves, okay, they're going to go down there and score, and we get to go back into the game and get a stop, and then we just continue this, back and forth exchange. When that happens, you get out of your rhythm as a coach, as how you're calling plays and substituting guys in and out. But what I will say is that you have to figure out a way to find momentum. And when you're able to find momentum, you have your game plan locked in. Mm-hmm. It requires a hot hand. And Rico Dowdle was a hot hand that particular drive where he came in and he made something happen. We have to figure out how we can to manage and continue that same type of effort when it comes to who is in the ball game and who is your playmakers out there to make those types of plays. T-Mac showed up. Jalen Coker showed up. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of guys that showed up. Chuba showed up when his number was called. And so you have to figure out that type of momentum and structure for your offense when they are having miscues like we did.
There was no consistency with this offense yesterday. We didn't have any kind of flow. You couldn't really see what the game plan was for that offense going in. I couldn't tell if we were committed to running the football, mm-hmm. and I know that we got in a position where we got down and we couldn't really run the ball like we needed to or like we're accustomed to doing. But at the end of the day, when you come out and you face a football team, you got to game plan them the same way that they're going to game plan you. You got to understand some of their weaknesses. You got to do things that they've struggled at over the course of the season. And coming into this game, I felt like Buffalo defensively was a team that was struggling, that we could have taken advantage of some of the things that they haven't done particularly well. The
struggle against the run coming into this game.
Struggle against the run, but also the short intermediate passes, guys not fitting where they need to be defensively and, taking advantage of that, some crossing routes, some of those things, because they've had guys in and out of their lineups as well. But at the end of the day, when you watch this offense, and I'm going into this game yesterday, I was extremely confident knowing that Andy Dalton was going to be our quarterback with Bryce being out, because he's a guy that has a ton of experience in this league. And yesterday, to me, they didn't show up. I love Andy, and it just didn't show up. And one of the things that stood out to me, was the turnovers for sure. When you think about a Sean McDermott coach defense, that is one thing that he always preaches. Yeah. Getting the ball out, taking the football away. That's why they're usually in the top 5 or up there when it comes to takeaways, because that's something that he puts so much emphasis on. But when you see Andy Dalton taking the ring and going out, and in particular, the thing that stood out to me was right before halftime, when we have an opportunity to put points on the board. And as a veteran quarterback, the one thing you cannot do in that position is take a sack with no timeouts. And you standing there, you're patting the ball. Buffalo does a great job in the red zone playing double rover, Stu. We played it forever. I knew what they was playing. They was playing double rover on this particular play. So when you see that, you got to throw this ball away. He had every opportunity to throw that football away and not take that sack so that we could get our kicking game on the field and in position to, really get points out of that. And that was the most disappointing part of what I saw in Andy yesterday, because that's a day one teaching point when you get in the red zone with no timeouts.
And Stu, we don't know the extent of Bryce Young's injury. It's an ankle. They seem to kind of intimate that he was close this week. Of course, they want to be cautious. We could see him back for Green Bay, but no matter if you have a guy that's up there in terms of all-time passing yards as your backup, it is different when you have your starter on the field, and we know what Bryce Young is capable of.
Oh yeah, I mean, this definitely puts a spotlight on Bryce Young and what he does and what he offers to this team. You talk about escapability, right? He has the ability to get out of the pocket, especially when he does get into the rhythm of the game and starts to feel the game in a different manner. He starts to do things that we're thinking to ourselves, like, whoa, where'd this come from, right? But that's what he's capable of doing. But one of the things we're not talking about here is the injuries at the offensive line.
Yeah.
That plays a factor into play calling. That plays a factor into run fits and how guys are able to see certain lanes develop. Those are chemistry bonds that we don't have right now. And when we miss out on opportunities to gel through practice reps and guys that don't have the opportunity to see the field as often, you're going to have some miscues when it comes to pass protection. You're going to have some miscues when it comes to running the ball and what you can ultimately do when it comes to the run game.
I want to get into those injuries in just a second, but I want to ask you both about something you said, Stu. With these playmakers, the hot hands, this offensive line has been banged up throughout this season, unfortunately. And we saw Rico Dowdle, when Chuba was injured, have some of his best games behind an offensive line that had not played together. If you're a coach, does that give you confidence when you talk about riding the hot hand right there, that you've got a guy who's explosive?
Yeah, you take a guy that runs in a way that doesn't necessarily wait, right?
No, I would say he's not waiting much.
He hits it no matter what, and if you're ready, then good for you. If you're not ready, you're gonna get ran up on, right? And I think you see certain types of runners that fit a certain opportunity that presents itself, right? Offensive unit that is banged up, that might need a little bit of fire lit in the backfield, right? That will just make something happen, that will make guys feel the pain when they're running the ball. And Rico Dowdle does that every single time. I mean, I looked at him on kickoff return at the beginning of the game, and he made a guy pay out the gate.
I saw that.
When you see Rico Dowdle run the ball, guys fear a guy like that, and you fear a guy like Chuba, but it's just different. Like, for Thomas Davis to come up and tackle a Rico Dowdle, he's going to know that he's going to feel something, right?
Yeah, what is the difference with that, TD?
I think when you look at Rico and the way that he runs it, Stu hit the nail right on the head. He talked about his aggressive style, his approach, and it reminds me a lot of the way that Adrian Peterson used to attack the line of scrimmage when he got the handoff. He would take the handoff, and he would already be going 100 miles per hour. And when you do that, it makes up for a lot of miscues that you're going to get from an offensive line that's shuffling in and out, which our offensive line has been really good up until yesterday. We lost some more bodies. But when you have a guy that attacks the line of scrimmage, that literally forces the defense to have to make a spot-on decision right away. And whenever that happens, if you don't make the right decision, that's when you see Rico Dowdle running down the field for 20-plus yards or it becoming a big game. But at the end of the day, you have vastly different running styles, right? When you look at the way Chuba is a more slower developing running style, read and hit it.
Yeah.
But like you talked about, Rico is a guy, give me the ball, I'm going right now.
Go.
And
I'm gonna make you right.
Yeah, and
right?
that's the difference in what you see out of these guys. And he's looking for contact. He's looking for in essence, he's looking for all the smoke.
I want all the smoke. And the hot hand, right? We talk about juice. Eventually, juice does run out, right? And when juice runs out, that's when you have other juice items to put into the midst of the game plan, right? And so there's no need to make this anything more than what it is.
See, to me,
the hot hand is all about what is best for the offensive unit right now.
Stu, right? I don't mean to cut you off, but as a coach, if I just watch a guy do this on the opening kickoff of the game,
number 44,
you're not leaving the field.
Yeah, number 44 got knocked in his.
You're not leaving the field. If that's my running back, I don't care who my starter is. I want you out there on the field because right now, what he just did, he set the tone for the game.
Yeah. Tone setter.
From the opening kickoff, the tone was set right there. We're going to out-physical you the entire game. And if we would have kept running the ball with Rico to start that, Buffalo would have understood and known they mean business.
Because it's also about respect, too, right? You want the defense to respect what you're doing and what you're committing to. And I think there are certain games where it calls for you to say, hey, you're in Bank of America Stadium. You're going to leave here with a fist fight, okay? And I think that's what we missed out on yesterday was the ability to put our fist up and start swinging. And I think we were waiting for a moment in the game to do that. Rather than just bringing it to the game, we were waiting for it to happen.
Stu, so I want to ask you this question. When you and D'Angelo Williams were, y'all had y'all thing, and it was never an instance where we looked at it and I want Stu on the field or I want D'Angelo on the field. Y'all work extremely well together.
Yeah.
But if you have a situation where you have a running back that's averaging 7 yards a carry, as we see, and then
Chuba was closer to 3 in last game.
Right,
Yep.
right. And then you have a running back that's 3 yards a carry. As a running back yourself, is that something where you say, well, I'm not performing as well. But I know we all competitors and we want to compete. But do you say, man, D'Angelo got the hot hand?
Oh, man, listen, that's why I said this. It's all about momentum. And the difference here is these guys were drafted different places, free agent, undrafted. So they're trying to get it out of their situation and get financially stable and get opportunities. Where me and D'Angelo, we were both first rounders, right? And so we had the understanding coming into this. I was drafted into a situation knowing that D'Angelo Williams was balling, right? So I'm not here to take a spot. I'm here to fulfill a duty.
Compliment.
I'm here to compliment him and compliment this offense because we also drafted Jeff Otah. So I knew what time it was. We're going to run the rock.
Run the ball.
And so I want to be a part of that, right? And so how me and D'Angelo did it, man, it wasn't, you get this series, I get this series. It was, hey, you go out there and do what you got to do. I'm here on the sideline. If you need me to come in there after you break a long run, I'm coming in. If it's tough sledding in there and you need somebody to come in and help you out, I'm coming in because it's just a change of pace, right? It's just an opportunity when things aren't going well, change the pace. When things are going well with your guy, boom, hit it running. And then we can all eat. I mean, I look back to the Tampa Bay game. Like, from my rookie year, that was the definition of we all gonna eat.
Yep.
And I look back to a couple of years ago, right, where Chuba and Deontay Foreman, they played the Detroit Lions. The game plan was it's cold outside, and we all gonna eat.
Grown man football.
Grown man football. Them offensive linemen, guess what they love to do? They like to eat too. So I think, give them an opportunity to take that type of form and find that type of flow because that will benefit the team mostly, especially against teams that are contenders. You want to be able to slow them down as much as possible, and you do that the best when you have a running formula.
Especially with a high-power offense that's putting up big numbers.
Yeah.
That they have the capability of running the score up if you allow that. How do you take the ball out of their hands? And that's with a successful running game. You get your running game established, you get it established early, and you make a commitment to it. And you commit to it because what that does, not only does it instill the confidence in your offensive line and your running backs, but it also keeps your defense fresh. And I don't think that people understand the value of having a fresh defense in the fourth quarter of a football game, how much of a difference that can be in the win-loss total.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, when your defense can finish games, that's where games in the NFL are usually won at in the fourth quarter.
We used to compete and say to ourselves, let us be the guys that finish the game.
And you used to do that too,
I don't want the defense to finish the game. I want it to be 4-minute offense so we can get this rock. I want to run the ball out, right? Yeah. That was the mindset that we had. And whenever you have your comrade, your other, your running back depth chart, you guys in the room, when you guys are able to go in there and say, all right, you spin one off, because if you spin one off, that means that I get to come in and they're going to be tired. We're just going to keep dialing it up, right?
Everybody eats, as you said. Well, and we should say, too, they have a great relationship, Rico and Chuba, and it's just figuring out, like you said, Stu, what that looks like going forward, that they're both healthy, and a great problem to have, two healthy, very accomplished running backs, especially, Stu, as you mentioned, with the other injuries that are currently going on. Panthers had a tough time injury-wise in this game. We're going to take a look at those. We'll show you exactly who's injured, specifically that offensive line. Brady Christensen, I mean, you hate to see this, Achilles. That's going to, he's, of course, going to be out. Taylor Moton, knee. He did not play in the second half. Cade Mays was doubtful with an ankle all game. So those are three guys that started the game that did not finish the game. And that is an offensive line that has already shuffled a bunch. He already lost Robert Hunt. Damian Lewis was out last game but came back this game. Austin Corbett is luckily healthy. But they had Jake Curran come in, who was the fourth guard. He was the fourth guy at a position this season. So you look at those injuries. We also saw Trevin Wallace out with a concussion. TD, it's a tough game, and not only do you lose a game, you now have questions in terms of health. Yeah,
we lost a lot in this game yesterday, more than on the scoreboard, KB, like you talked about, because when you are an injury-riddled team, and particularly at one position, with how many guys we've seen come in and out of the lineup from the offensive line standpoint, there's not a ton of big body guys that can move and do the things that these offensive linemen do.
Panthers signed so many at the beginning of the year, 9.
You sign so many guys, but then you constantly losing guys. There's not a bucket that's just out there that you can just go pluck these guys out of. So that's one of the things that we're going to definitely have to keep an eye on as the season goes on. We got to see at some point and hope that we can get some of our guys back on the field and healthy. And, I had the opportunity to speak to Brady yesterday after the game, man, and, he's definitely disappointed, but I was excited to see where his spirit was emotionally. And, the first thing when I went up to him, he was like, nobody understands this better than you do, man. And he's like, just got to attack it, and I'd love to see when guys take that approach instead of, just sitting and just being down on themselves, because it's easy to get down when you go out and you're losing another game or another season, and how disappointing that can be. But this is the point in the time where his teammates rally around him. You lost a brother. Now it's time for somebody to step up and fill those shoes. But, I think it's one of the things that in this game, KB, that I want to go back to that stood out to me. And we was talking about Andy Dalton, the Bryce Young effect with his accuracy and the things that he was able to do throwing the football, KB. When you look at some of those third down plays, in particular to Teteroa, those are plays that we have been converting as an offense.
Yes.
And it's sustaining drives and having more opportunities. Fourth down situations. And we didn't see those opportunities happen yesterday. We didn't get that spark. We didn't get those chances because we had too many turnovers we talked about, but then also having a situation where, a quarterback comes in, he starts the game. That Andy has had the opportunity to throw the football, but not in a real game situation from a whole game standpoint. And, I heard people talking about, the accuracy issues and him not being on point, in particular with the sluggo route in the end zone to T-Mac. Those are things that come with time, and if we're able to get Bryce back, then I think that would be a good thing. Yeah, and this route right here is one of the things that really Bryce had been putting those routes on the money. So people talk about Bryce Young a lot, and they criticize him a lot, but we had come to really be accustomed to seeing him put a lot of those passes on the money, and I think we took that for granted.
Well, look, with this game, it was not a great game for the Panthers, but we know what this team is capable of, and that's the good news. We do want to hear now from Derek Brown. Here's what he had to say in the locker room after that game.
They played on our edges. No, we know it coming in. That's what most teams are going to do. Like I said, we just have to be able to execute across the board in all phases.
Is there a worry that other teams will try to copy that now?
copycat league. They're going to come back and do the same thing next week. We just got to be able to stop it.
Dave said this isn't the type of ball that you guys play. How do you not let a loss like this resonate in the locker room?
So you go back to work. That's all you can do. If you're a man, you'll show up and you'll make it better. If not, then, you'll fall and succumb to this.
How do you make sure the frustration doesn't carry, though? Obviously, there's getting back to work, but there's the mental aspect of it, too.
I mean, you got to be a leader and try to keep guys from doing it. I mean, when it happens, when you see it, you got to speak up and you got to kill it.
And TD, you said that you liked what he said as a leader. Sure. He said, you know, if you're a man, you're going to show up and fix it. You flush this, you kill it, and you move on.
You know, I love the fact that, you step up and you take accountability. When things go well, you get the spotlight, you get the shine. And when things go bad, you got to step up and you got to be the same person. You got to understand that it can't define you. It can't become a thing where you allow it to linger and you let it take over you as a football team, in particular as a defense. You got to go and correct those issues, and you got to hold every single person in that room, on that field, accountable for their actions that took place on that field. And then you move on as a group, and you be better the next time you have the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's good to have people like Derek Brown in that locker room, especially during this moment for Dave Canellis. This is year 2. So let's not forget, we are developing a franchise here. We're developing a team. We're getting the DNA on track here. We're finding out who guys are. And so every day you're being evaluated. Every day you're being assessed. And so for the players, your preparation has to be taken up a notch every single week, especially after a loss like this.
Good to know. And like you guys said, look, won 4 of the last 6, 3 of the last 4. This was a game that they're going to watch, they're going to learn from. But let's look ahead right now. Now, the Packers are the next game. They looked very good against the Steelers yesterday. So certainly that is one, 5-1-1. But Stu, I know you and I were talking yesterday, and you've got your eyes on those division games.
Yeah. TD, you know how important it is to win those division games, because that's how you get your easy ticket, right? All we need is a ticket. And so we focus in on those games. We played guys twice. So even more so, you have to focus in on, how you're going to adjust on the second time you play a guy, right? The Falcons are going to be prepared the second time we play them. It's not going to be a 30-0 type of game where you just show up and it happens. As we saw yesterday, you can't just show up and let, your past play speak for itself. You have to show up every single week, and especially in those division games.
Yeah, you have to do that. And Stu, we always talk about it, and KB knows those division games, they definitely count twice. But when you have a team, you coming off of a tough loss, and then now you have to go up to Green Bay and take on a Green Bay team that's playing extremely well. And in particular, defensive line for Green Bay they got after those boys last night. So that's one of the things going into that game as an offensive line, you understand you have to be ready for those guys. So you got to have a game plan that attacks them and not allows them to attack you. So you got to go in with that running game and be prepared, because we talked about this early in the season. You take your running game and your defense on the road. Defensively, they have a high-powered offense, and you think James Cook was a good running back. Josh Jacobs is a guy that has some of those same abilities, but he's a bigger body and he's looking for contact as well. So we just got to lock in and understand what Green Bay likes to do. We got to understand that they have a plethora of receivers that they're getting the ball to. But last night, their tight end,
Kraft.
He absolutely went crazy. He went crazy last night. So what that says to me is that Jordan Love is very comfortable getting the ball to him in any situation. So our linebackers, our safeties, they're going to all have to be in tune to what's going on with their game plan and how they're trying to utilize him and those other weapons. But the rest of the schedule, the New Orleans Saints is a team, they're 1-7. I don't think their record really indicates the strength of that football team. They've been in a lot of games, and they've lost a lot of games in the fourth quarter. But they are a team that is highly capable of beating you. The Atlanta Falcons, I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons are a team that really has an identity right now. They had a situation where they had a backup quarterback go in who was a starting quarterback, same as us. And, they got beaten pretty handily by a Dolphins team that a lot of people thought that they were going to beat. And then we know with San Fran, they've been a really good team for a very long time under the regime that they have right now. And, it's going to be built up as the Christian McCaffrey
and it's Monday Night
revenge
Football,
game or something. It's just one
Monday
of those.
Night Football.
Monday Night Football, C-Mac, and it's going to be a great opportunity for this football team on a national stage to kind of highlight, who they are becoming as a football team, because it's been about being in positions to just show that we aren't that same team that we were, or that team that showed up yesterday. And they got 4 weeks, as we look at it right now, to right some of those wrongs.
All right, well, speaking of these division games, let's quickly take a look at the NFC South. And Stu, you're right. You're in a great position if you're the Panthers.
Yeah. The expectation here is just to show up, okay? Defensively, offensively, and special teams. This is an opportunity, once again, to change the narrative and focus in on who you are becoming, because that's what this is all about. We are becoming something greater than what we have been for the past several seasons, and it's right there in front of you. Tampa Bay, 4-2, 6-2, 4-2 in the conference. You're right there behind them, okay? The Atlanta Falcons, you've already been able to gain some confidence with that game. New Orleans, you don't want to take them lightly. But if you just keep the main thing, which is do what we do good, right?
Yep.
We play defense. We stop the run. We've shown that we can do that. We run the ball. We've shown that we can do that. We take care of the ball. We've shown we can do that. So just get back to those basic things and those fundamentals and just let things actually go the way they're supposed to go in these games, because you don't have to force things. Just do the things that you've been taught to do. You don't have to force it.
Some great opportunities to get back to Panthers football ahead. All right, we're going to pick the Monday night game. I'm going to let TD go first. Now, TD is known to be a little competitive about this when you and Stu are on opposite sides.
Boy.
But TD will let you know. TD has been known.
No, hold on. Wait a minute, KB. I don't mean to cut you off. But you decided to take a week off. But the week before that, I won, sir.
Is that when you?
Between us.
I didn't decide to take.
That was when you texted the group at 11 o'clock at night talking about Duval.
Yeah,
a little competitive.
Listen, I told Stu that was going to beat Kansas City, and it happened, man.
Little competitive. If you guys reach the NFL, you play at that level, you're competitive about everything. All right, TD, so who is going to win this game between the Commanders and the Chiefs?
Man, the Commanders are a team coming into the season that, KB, I thought and expected a lot out of them. But they've faced that injury bug. They've had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup, and I don't think that Jaden Daniels is going to be back this week. I think Mariota is going to be the starter. So the Chiefs are a team right now that's hitting their stride, so I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Not so fast, my friend.
Okay.
Marcus Mariota, the Oregon Duck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was once the Heisman.
Man, stop picking with your heart, man.
Nah, ain't no hard thing over here. See them rushing yards? They second. No? Okay. I believe run game is going to be a point of emphasis for the Commanders. And I believe the Chiefs ain't got enough in the tank.
Okay.
Stu, you crazy. Sit there,
Commanders.
Picking Mariota with his heart, picking the run game because they are second in rushing, but you got Patrick Mahomes, and they are playing extremely well. They got Riche Rice back, and they look very fluent on offense right now,
So just make
sir.
sure, just when the Commanders win, just send me this clip so that way I can post it all over the place.
And when they lose,
And when they don't,
send it to them too.
All right, guys, this was great. Thank you both so much for all the insight into that Bills game and then what's ahead for the Panthers. And thank all of you for watching. We'll see you next week on the Panthers Postgame.